Welcome to today's episode of Time Well Spent. I'm pleased to have one of our own Simcoe County District School Board designated early childhood educators, Delano Brown, join us. Delano is currently serving at Boyne River Public School. Thanks so much for your time today, Delano, as we explore the concept of racism and the steps that we can all take to move forward in standing up against it and the harm that it causes.
Thank you, Daryl, for having me. I appreciate it. You know what? It's important for us to know this, and one of the things that I always talk about when it talks about racism, I always talk about openness. That we need to have an openness to, one, accept what has happened here in Canada, and an openness to be willing to be a part of the change. And the other thing too is understanding, like having that understanding of, you know what, I need to look into myself as well as anyone else so that I'm helped to benefit to become progressive in making racism a thing of the past. Like, we don't want it to keep on perpetuating over and over again. And in that way, we have to take onus on how we're going to do it and then accept it. So I always say to kids, take what the person's telling you, accept what they're telling you, and then be open to go forward. And I think that's the same thing that we need to do when it comes to talking about racism and talking about equality, talking about everything that's taking place within the world today. One of the biggest things that, like, I was formerly at Allison Union, and one of the things that I really loved about what Allison Union is doing, and also I believe a lot of the other schools in Simcoe County is doing, is having those heritage nights. Before, when I was younger, they called it cultural night, but I think it's more of, you have to accept and have your heritage and be proud of your heritage, and even as African Canadian descendants, like, you have that heritage of what has happened and accept it and be able to display it and own it. And when you own it, it feels so refreshing so that other people can experience that for yourself. As a Black person in the community, when you express your heritage and show that, it's really very beautiful. And I think that being able to allow to express that in the school setting is amazing. When it comes to the little guys, when it comes to them, they are so fresh. They are so open. I mean, because of the environment, they have not really been shaped so much in the way that they don't look at everything as, hey, I could do this, right? So one of the huge things that I love to do is everybody does read alouds, and we love to do read alouds. And I know, like, a lot of people say, oh, I think that I should do a lot more read alouds where it shows diversity in books, but sometimes I think we have to open up our thinking and what diversity looks like. And one of my favorite, when I open up a book, one of my favorite is mix it up. Mix it up. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, hold on, how does that relate to racism? How does that relate to inclusion? How does that relate to, well, it does. Because in here, it shows how colors have to combine and make even brighter colors, better colors. It shows how a red gets with blue to make purple, and then let's use a little bit of white to make the purple lighter, or to use a little bit of black to make the purple darker. And all these things allows for me to be able to show the kids and talk about inclusion. I said, could you imagine everybody just having a blue crayon? Everything in the world would be blue, and that would be boring, right? So it allows for me to talk about all the different things about how we are able to add colors to our lives, how to add these things. And I do that. I use this book a lot. I told you it'll take a while. I use the the OK book. And you can use it anyway. The OK book, right? And the OK book says that it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to think a certain way, but it's okay to relearn your thinking, right? So it allows for me to do that. It allows for me to talk about inclusion, to talk about these things that the kids really, they already do it. At that stage, they're already including. So really what I'm talking about is, let's not exclude. Let's not exclude. So notice how in all the books, we're talking about including everything. And that's where it allows for me to bring out, one of my favorites, The Snow Day. Sorry, I have it upside down. The Snow Day. The Snow Day. I love this book. The kids love this book. And Happy to Be Happy talks about, Black girls and how they feel with their hair and how important their hair is. And for our culture, Black women's hair is crown jewel. It's a crown jewel on their head. And they treat it with respect, right? And I also love this book, Say Something. This right here, this book, when you read it to the kids, it allows for them to have an understanding that they have a voice. They have a voice. No matter how small they are, they have a voice. And when you give them and present to them how important inclusion is and take away the exclusion, it allows for them to do and become the citizens in our community that will make sure that we have a great community. When I first came to the Simcoe School Board, I changed careers and was in the school, and it was so cool. I first was an educational assistant, and being an educational assistant is an amazing job. It's great, it's terrific. And I was in a grade, at SK grade 1 class, and one of the students, said to me, "Why do you have a month?" I was like, that is a great question. And again, like I talked to you about earlier, I had to be open to accept that question. Not get, why are you asking me that? And I'd have to have an understanding of where he's asking it from.
Sure.
So I said to him, I said, "Hey, have you ever lost your favorite toy? You lost your favorite toy and you have no idea where that toy is, and then somebody finds it and gives you that toy, and you want to keep that toy forever because he's like, this was my favorite toy." I said, well, that's the same thing what happened with the Black culture. We lost our history. And then we were given an opportunity to talk about our history for a month. And we get to learn about our history, right? Because it was lost. And that's why we are able to enjoy the month, because we want to learn everything, but not just us. You get to learn about our history, which is pretty cool, right? It's like I get to share my favorite toy with you, right? And he was like, okay, walked away. So that was one. And the other one that I really enjoy, and I was working with Becky Kennedy. Becky Kennedy she's amazing to work with, and we're working, and this was our second year working together. And she asked this question to a student. She says, "What's the difference between Mr. Brown and myself?" The student looked at me and then looked at her and said, "Oh, I know, it's a watch." Miss Becky was wearing a watch. I don't wear a watch. And that was the only thing he saw. That's the only thing. He didn't see he didn't say, "Oh, she's a woman, he's a man. Oh, he's Black, she's white." It was the watch, because what he saw was his teachers. And he said, "That's my teacher, and that's my teacher. And they're educators, and they're educating me." And again, in kindergarten, so he saw what we need to see, that we're all the same. And the only thing that changes us is our watch. That's the only thing that makes you and me different, is the watch. And that's it. And those are two different scenarios, but at the same time, again, we were both open to having an understanding where they were coming from and accepting it and taking it and using it. So, yeah, that's what happened.
That's awesome. Thanks, Delano, for sharing the resources, the stories. And I'm really thankful for the work that you're doing, not only at your school, but also in your work with many other talented SCDSB staff members to share your best practice and help guide future learning opportunities. Thank you, Delano, for your time, for your positive energy, and your commitment to student achievement and well-being. This was indeed time well spent.
Thank you, Daryl.